Halo Tribuners, jumpa kembali bersama saya Geok Mengwan dan kali ini kita akan ngobrolin soal bisnis dan yang seperti kita ketahui bahwa bisnis pariwisata di Indonesia ini masih sangat-sangat menjanjikan, terutama bisnis perhotelan. Karena kan seperti yang kita tahu nih bahwa kalau kita buka medsos ini banyak banget nih destinasi-destinasi wisata yang yang recommended dan pengen banget kita datengin, terus tapi ternyata itu berada di luar daerah dan nggak bisa bolak-balik, dan tentunya kita harus menetap atau stay di hotel, dan tentunya ini akan menjanjikan. Dan untuk saat ini kita akan membahas soal Archipelago. Buat Tribuners yang belum tahu, Archipelago ini adalah hotel manajemen terbesar di Asia Tenggara dan sudah 27 tahun di Indonesia dengan 45.000 kamar serta di 200 destinasi di seluruh Asia Tenggara, Karibia, Timur Tengah, Afrika, dan Oseania. Perusahaan hotel terpercaya dengan brand termasuk Aston, Collection by Aston, Alana, Huxley, Camuela, Harper, Cass, Hotel Neo, Faith, Nordic, dan powered by Archipelago. Dan saat ini sudah hadir di studio Tribunnews Jakarta, CEO dari Archipelago, ada John Flick. Hello, John.
Morning. Hey.
How are you?
Very good. Thanks very much for having me on the show. It's
You're
great to be here.
welcome. Nice to meet you. I will ask about the challenges you face when running a business hotel in Indonesia. What kind of challenges?
Well, there's many challenges across the board, but I think the main challenge in Indonesian hospitality in general is probably people. Finding the right people who want to be in the hospitality business for an extended period of time, because there's a lot of people who like cooking or like, kind of entertaining people, but to be in the hotel business, 8-10 hours a day for many years is quite challenging. Yeah. And more people these days, young people in particular, have a lot more opportunities open to them than they would, for example, when I started off 30 or 40 years ago in the business. I mean, now people can get into different technologies, they can get into, SEO optimization, fintech is big in Indonesia, working for, Grab or Gojek. There's a lot of different opportunities, so in the old days, people, if they, left school earlier, didn't have a job, they became, waiters or cooks, and then kind of moved up through the ranks. But these days, people are, much more educated when they leave school. So even though they don't have the experience, they want to come in, for example, if they finish the hotel school in Bandung, they want to come in and be managers almost straight away. I mean, on paper, they're qualified, but practically not really.
Yeah.
So it's finding hotel business is also quite labor intensive. You need a lot of people in it. And to be able to, find those kind of people. And then, a lot of the younger people today, Gen Z, for example, they're not that used to talking to people, face to face, interacting with guests and so forth. They're more used to, chatting online with their friends. And so that kind of social interaction is a little bit lost. So when they're coming into the hotel business, it's kind of a challenge to get them to be interacting with older guests or, more affluent business people or travelers. But just having conversations with people for Gen Z these days is a little bit more of a challenge. So that's probably the two biggest challenges we have, is finding the right people and finding enough of the right people to be able to do the job. Yeah.
Okay. Then we know that we have passed the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. So how the hotels business after pandemic?
It's good. I mean, it's booming. I mean, our expectation was always, we thought there'd be, 2 years of the pandemic and then 2 years of recovery and then 2 years boom. That's normally what happens, like in the 20th century, previously in countries or areas where there was, an endemic issue in one country, or like the Spanish flu in Europe, for example, or there was a global pandemic, like COVID. So when we did the thing, we made our plan for that. But in general, when people are traveling these days, safety and security is a big issue for people. Better hygiene standards, better safety standards, better security standards. So some things in hotels have changed, because of that, and they've changed for the better. There's better, overall, I think globally there's better standards in hotels and in the hospitality business after the pandemic. So, but for us, it was an opportunity for us to kind of press the reset button in many ways. We had basically a 2-year pause almost, where you could, rejig, change some of our procedures and standards and systems and stuff like that. And then I think we've come out on the other side of COVID as a better company.
Okay. And after the pandemic, we know that the government applied the rules like CHSE, clean lines, healthness,
Yeah, health
like
safety,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, it was very good. I mean, the government here actually in Indonesia did, I think, in our opinion, I think
Yeah.
did a pretty good job. I mean, different countries had different strategies from, Australia, New Zealand totally closing down to Sweden totally open, nothing different. So it was interesting to see who actually got it right. But I mean, when the pandemic itself came, it was very difficult. Nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, it's something that nobody in our living life had ever really experienced.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. But I think the government here kept a good balance of, opening at the right times and closing at the right times when numbers got high. So overall, I mean, the business here did very well compared to other countries that closed down almost fully. Like the Philippines, for example, was very difficult. They almost closed down for 2 years. So that was a problem. And then opening up, Indonesia opened up, quite well. The perception also overseas for travelers of different countries, like Japan had a good reputation, Dominican Republic had a good reputation, and I think Indonesia had a good reputation. So when these countries were opening up again to markets and flights were coming in, I think people's perception of Indonesia as a country was quite good, because things had been generally well controlled and well thought through, well planned, well organized. So hospitality-wise, I think in the hospitality business, I think it came out pretty well.
Okay. Okay, then can you share on how you started Archipelago? Because we know this is the biggest company,
Yeah,
hotel management
it's
in
a good
Indonesia.
question. It's quite a long story. I mean, it takes quite a while to build up these kind of businesses. Um, our original kind of plan, we started off many years ago, was basically, we sat down for almost a year, myself and Charles Brookfield, who's my mentor and the chairman of the company. We started off, basically in conversations, just talking about how we'd envision a hospitality business, sustainable hospitality business in Indonesia. And, we basically made like a 20 or 30-year plan. Tourism was heading, where, the demographics were going, what people were demanding, how flights were coming along at the time when we started. Yeah, when we started, there wasn't any Lion Air, there wasn't any AirAsia. So flights were quite expensive. People travel for longer periods. So basically we started off with, a vision and a mission, like many companies did, but we actually spent like quite a lot of time. And then after that, we decided upon our strategic plan, like what areas of the hospitality business we'd be playing in. Would we be looking for construction? Would we be looking to later do an IPO? Would we be, staying private? And would we be in hotel management or franchise, licensing agreements, third-party operator contracts? I mean, there's many different, would we become a travel agent? Would we be mostly online or mostly, wholesale? Would we be B2B, B2C? So there's, once, you have to make that kind of strategic plan of what playing field you want to play in first. And once we had that decided about that we wanted to be in hotel management mostly, then after that we fleshed out the different plans that would support the overall strategy of the company. The general plans then were, which brands would we develop, what kind of brands we thought we needed. So we looked at different companies like that were already established, Hilton, IHG, Accor, other companies that people don't really know but are kind of behind, like third-party operator companies which are quite big, but like Aimbridge, for example. You've never heard of that company,
No,
right? Yeah, Aimbridge, for example, would be, I mean, even people in the hotel business wouldn't know it. Even though Aimbridge would probably like one of the 30th largest hotel management companies in the world. They're not branded, they're called third-party operators, TPOs. So they, for example, Aimbridge they would manage more Marriott hotels in America than Marriott. Or they would manage like all the Marriott, IHG, Hilton hotels in Mexico. They'd all be managed by Aimbridge. But people don't know these companies, And then there's other companies like MG, for example, or Hotel Beds, which are bed banks or like wholesalers. which people don't know either. But a lot of the business flows through these companies. There's only actually a couple of companies like this in the world. And then there's the bigger, like when we started off, there was big, a lot more OTAs, but a lot of it's kind of been consolidated. I mean, there is, in Indonesia, is quite good actually. There is some very good local companies like Ticket.com and Traveloka. But I mean, the global players would be like Booking.com and Expedia, for example. So anyway, so we decided upon that. And then we decided, okay, we're going to need about 10 brands for our vision, brand-wise. And then we decided what technology we're going to use, and what human resource capabilities we're going to have, and then what kind of funding we're going to need for all this. So because we didn't have any money at the time, we said, okay, organic growth is the way to go. So we worked out our plan. So little by little, year by year, we reinvest any money we had. We took, very small salaries or no salary at all for many years. And then we reinvested everything into the business for, more staff, better better systems, technology, stuff like this. So we were able to build up the company over 20 years. I don't think you'd be able to do it now. It'd be much more difficult if you wanted to do what we did. I think just at the time, when you're developing any of these businesses, there has to be a good sprinkling of luck. A lot of it is luck for, me meeting Charlie meeting me, the way hotels were going at the time, the way global travel was going at the time, being in Indonesia in a very developing market with a massive population and people who like to travel, who like to eat, who like to go out, who like to entertain. So for us, all these kind of things came together to give us the opportunity to develop a successful business. And, we're still, a lot of the stuff we're only developing after finishing developing now, like where we were. So we still have a long way to go, but the base we've set up for the company is very strong. I mean, we don't carry any debt. We've developed like all the brands we needed to develop, all the systems we need to develop, all the technology we need to develop. So now it's, we have all this put together. COVID basically allowed us to accelerate the finishing of all this. So we're in a situation now where we can expand more across Indonesia, expand into other types of business within the hospitality business, and then also expand overseas.
Okay. Then I'm curious about why you named the company Archipelago, because Indonesia is the archipelagic state, or?
Yeah, Indonesia is it is an archipelago with all the islands and so forth. And Charlie, our chairman, originally also worked in Hawaii, which is also an archipelago. So he kind of saw the connection there. He's based in Bali now. He lives in Bali, and he always felt a good affinity towards Indonesia. We always felt that it was a good place to have our base. We wanted to be based here, even if we expand. Like we operate in 15 countries now. But we always thought that Indonesia would be a good place to be. So he always liked the name Archipelago, even though it's very difficult. Even for Westerners, it's difficult to say Archipelago. A lot of people don't know what it is. For Indonesians, we know it's very difficult. So a lot of the time we kind of become, that company that nobody can say, which is also sometimes a good thing, because people go, oh, what's the name of that company? Oh, Archipelago. Oh, yeah. It's like, so it's okay. It's kind of a fun thing, like Häagen-Dazs, which is not actually a word, right? It's just a made-up word. Nobody knows what it is, but it sounds cool. So we kind of became Archipelago. So I wouldn't use it as a hotel brand. For hotel brands, we like smaller names, Aston, Fave, Neo, a little bit more simple, more brand recognition. But I think for an overall holding company, I think Archipelago works well, and then kind of represents what we've become.
Okay. Then what are your plans to Archipelago in 5 years to go?
5 years, yeah. You probably know, the further you move up in the company, the more you're kind of like not living in the moment. You're a little bit ahead. If you look at it, people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they could be 50 years or 100 years down the road, or Papa Jokowi, the president who is developing the new capital. That's a 50, 100-year plan, but some people are like that. So for us, in our position, we're 5 years or 10 years down the road. So I think in 5 years, 10 years away, we see ourselves expanding more overseas. We see, ideally for us, big markets would be the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and then Turkey, where we can support the Indonesian market going overseas for either, holidays or vacations, or Hajj Plus, where, people go to Saudi Arabia but also they visit somewhere else along the way, whether it's Istanbul or Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Oman, for example. So these kind of places will be important for us expanding overseas. We've already signed a few contracts in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, Medina, and Mecca, of course. So I'll be over there, and then also overseas. And we're focusing a lot in the Americas, Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic. We see that as a big market for us. We have a lot of hotels open in Cuba. We have 32 contracts now signed in the Dominican Republic, so we're focusing over there. And then Southeast Asia for us will be a big market. So apart from the expansion overseas, then of course we're looking to expand across Indonesia with the different brands. We have about 150 hotels operating across Indonesia now. In the next 5 years, we'd expect that to get up to about 300. And then as well as that, then another avenue of growth for us would be on technology. We've developed our own property management system. And then we have a Powered by Archipelago system, which is we do the connectivity and distribution, OTA negotiations for individual hotels that are not in our group or other groups of hotels, for example. So at the moment in Indonesia, we do about another 100 of those. We do about 50 hotels in the Philippines. So this is kind of another area of expansion. And then the last one for us would be in technology. We've developed our own property management system, which is the system that, it's front of house, back of house, point of sale system in hotels. So that makes a big difference. It's a really good system. It's like if Google developed a property management system, it would be like this. You can train people on it in 2 or 3 days. So it makes it very good, because these days in hotels, you get a lot of turnover of staff. We always had that in Europe, but in Indonesia, people are more stable, but now people are moving a little bit more, 1 year, 2 years, changing jobs. So you have a lot more turnover of staff and stuff like that. So basically they're the 4 areas. And then of course, building our own hotels. We've built 3 hotels here so far in Cilegon, Anyer, and Serang. We're looking to develop a few more hotels in Indonesia. So they're the kind of main focus areas we're looking to develop over the next couple of years.
Okay, which city or region?
There's a lot. I mean, the new capital will be a big one anywhere around, and also the supporting cities around there. So Samarinda, Balikpapan are going to be very popular feeder cities into that. That whole area is going to be quite popular. Jakarta will also be busy. I mean, one of the things people don't really understand is that when they're moving the capital, people think, there's going to be less business in Jakarta.
But it's not true.
That's not happens. That actually what that happens is that creates more traffic, more stays, shorter stays. So all the people who go to work in the new capital, for example, Nusantara, they'll be spending time there. They'll be spending time also in Jakarta, where a lot of the commercial business is. A lot of the ministries and stuff are still here. So then a lot of the coordination going back and forward, there'll be more travel, more meetings to coordinate all this. So hotels will have more meeting space. But then overall, I mean, say Indonesia, for example, for domestic flights is number 13 in the world. So it's quite big already. But by 2050, it'll be number 4 in the world. So there's really going to be a lot of more flights, people flying across Indonesia in the next few years. So what that will lead into is more requirements for bigger and more hotels at airports, wherever it is. And the government has been quite good in recent years about developing out more infrastructure, more hotels, and all that is good for domestic tourism, but it's also good for international tourism coming into Indonesia, that the infrastructure is so good. So
okay. Then I'm curious about which city is Archipelago has more hotels and guests in Indonesia?
Jakarta, I mean, with the greater area of Jakarta, we'd have about 30 plus hotels. And Bali, we'd have about 20 hotels. But then there's other cities like, for example, Makassar, where we'd have 6 to 7 hotels. So different areas have different stuff. East Java has really built up over the last couple of years around, not just in Surabaya, but around Surabaya, Mojokerto, and areas like that. So we have about 20 hotels in that area. So they're kind of spread out, but we can do a lot of hotels because we have, from 2-star to 5-star, different brands, different facilities. Some hotels are good for.
Then what kind of hotel brands that has more guests or?
The mid-range is a sweet point. I mean, because the mid-class is the largest kind of consumer group in Indonesia.
What brand?
So they would be like Aston Inns, for example, Aston Inn, Aston City Hotels, Neo Plus, Quest Hotels. So a lot of our brands will have they could be 2-star, 4-star, but they'll also have variations of a sub-brands, call it, in the 3-star category. So for example, Aston normally is a 4-star, a Grand Aston with a 5-star. But if you do an Aston Inn or an Aston City, it can be a 3-star. So that's the way it kind of goes. But usually in the 3-star kind of level is where the sweet spot is for hotels. 3-star, maybe 100 rooms, some meeting rooms, nice facilities like a small swimming pool. That's kind of like where you can do, and where most developers put their money, because the payback in that kind of hotel is actually the best.
Okay. Okay, then have you identified any insight from the tourism trends of 2023 that might influence your plans for this year or maybe 5 years ago?
Yeah, people are working from home a lot more. And when people are working from home a lot more, it means if they're off working from home, or not off, but working from home on Friday, and mentally they're almost off. So Thursday is like they're traveling on Thursday now. So the weekends are getting a little bit longer. People are taking more, like almost monthly breaks, where previously like people would take in the old days people would take a 2-week holiday in the on the school holidays. Now people take mini breaks almost every month, which is seeing a lot more. You're also seeing people hanging out a lot more in hotels, working in hotels, working in cafes in the hotels. And then also some of the trends that came along, people kind of missed having face-to-face meetings. I think people realized during COVID that it's not that easy to coordinate everything online. And people are not so creative when it's coming to generating solutions and coming up with new ideas. It's not easy to do when you're online. So people can do that a lot better when they're meeting face-to-face, either in the office or in a meeting space or in a retreat or a group getaway. So I think companies are realizing that they need this human interaction to generate ideas, generate future revenues. So I think there's some of the trends that are coming along.
Okay. Then what do you think will shape the future of tourism?
Probably three big things we'll probably face. I think we're probably looking, you're looking at technology, which is a big thing. And then that came along a lot faster during COVID. I mean, people were already moving to booking more trips online, booking airline tickets online, booking events online, different stuff. Their entertainment when they go to the different places is all online these days. And I think that was coming, but I think COVID accelerated that by
because
maybe
everything
5 years.
is digitalized. Right?
Everything's digitalized. So I think digitalization technology is one thing that's going to be for the future. And then connected to that, personalization is going to be a big thing. And the technology will allow that. So people can personalize their stays more, personalize their trips to different places, either by using ChatGPT. If okay, I'm traveling to Surabaya for 4 days, can you give me a suggested itinerary? And then they have like a full itinerary for the 4 days in Surabaya, and then they can figure out different hotels and different stuff. So I think the personalization of people's travels and trips and stays will be done, but aided by technology. And then I think the third area, which will be big, is sustainability, of course, which is a big talking point at the moment. It has been for many years, but now it's really, people are seeing that it's how important it is to be sustainable. And on the very beginning was sustainability number one and technology number two. So they're big avenues for us that we still focus on today. But from the beginning, we've been very sustainability focused across all these areas, and all the general managers and all the staff at hotels are well aware of this. So they all work together. I mean, we have a great team. We have a great kind of momentum going in sustainability. So we're happy to see that more people are taking an interest in it now. So it's great.
Okay, so there's three things:
sustainability, technology, and then personalization.
Personalization, okay. And then I've heard about Archipelago membership. Can you tell us more about that, and what kind of benefit that can user get from
it's a bit of a promotion, membership. But sure, I'll promote it. So the membership, the Archipelago membership app, is an app. Basically, what we tried to do when we looked at memberships for hotels, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory, is a lot of them get complaints because people were getting points, and then their points don't get put on, and so this can lead to a lot of problems. The other problem you have, especially with airlines, for example, is that over time they find that they can't really run the programs enough, or people have too many points. So not enough people are paying and too many people are redeeming points. So what happens over time with airlines, for example, is when you book a trip, you get much less points, and it costs much more to use the points. You get much less benefits, right? So we wanted to avoid that. So for our membership program, we said we try and make the app is very useful, but people can get, like, as soon as they become members, they can get easier discounts. For example, 15% discount on food and beverage, or 25% discount on spa. And then it's also, they can, if they book the rooms through the app, they can get certain benefits like late check-in, or early check-in, or late check-out. They can get the food and beverage discounts, spa discounts, and they can, we also have some nice features on it. For example, the butler chat, which we put onto it. So if people are in the hotel or outside the hotel and they want to chat with the hotel, they can automatically chat with the butlers. They can, I forgot to tell you the AC is not working, or I want to order a massage, or can I order this or order that? They can do it through the butler chat. And it also has different language features, which is something we developed when we did the athletes village for the Asian Games. So we had Koreans, we had Japanese, and we developed this app originally for that, and then we also used it then in our membership app. So for example, if you're a Korean guest and you come to one of the Aston hotels, Archipelago hotels, you can type in Korean, and then it will come out in Indonesian on the receiver's end, and they can respond in Indonesian, and then it will come out Korean on the guest side. So you can do it in many different languages now: Arabic, Korean, Japanese. So that's quite useful. It's a nice touch, because a lot of time people don't like picking up the phone and asking for something. They're like, but
only
if they can,
in one app.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can use it in one app and you can put in your own language, I need an iron and an ironing board, or I need this, or I want to order some room service. Everything's on the app: room service menus, event information about other hotels, information about the area that people are staying in. We can also they can also get discounts from different vendors in the area. For example, different bars or clothing stores and stuff like that. So that way the hotels try and support local businesses in the area. So it's a great app. I mean, it's really a useful app. Yeah, almost a super app. Yeah, but I think it's a super app. The way the guys did a great job developing it. I mean the guys who developed it, they come out with some stuff. I just go, oh, man, that's cool. It's really good, really useful. So the team who developed it and the ideas that they had, and it's a work in progress. But I mean, they did an amazing job on it. Yeah, so it's really good.
Okay. Then how do you see the hotel management landscape in Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general?
Yeah, I think number one, the future is bright. I mean, I think tourism in Southeast Asia is going to boom over the next few years. I mean, not just from people in Southeast Asia traveling, but also long distance travelers from Europe and so forth coming around. But the Chinese market is going to come back, starting already this year, but more expanding next year. But in the future, it's going to be massive. I mean, probably 50% of travel around is going to be very big. And I think once supersonic flights come in, it'll make it even easier. Like flights that are 7 hours now will become 2 hours. So it'll become a lot quicker. So I think it's going to be like a lot of the business in Southeast Asia is going to be generated or driven by this big surge in tourism. I mean, it's busy now, but it's just going to get much busier in the future. So at the moment, there's a lot of local operators. I mean, in Indonesia in particular, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, even more international operators are seeing that it's a big opportunity for them. So you'll see a lot more international brands like Intercon, Hilton, Marriott hotels. You'll see a lot more of those coming in, because in Asia, Southeast Asia in general, there's a lot of branded hotels, but maybe only 10 to 15% of the hotels are branded. Whereas you compare that with America, for example, where 80% of the hotels are branded. So there's still a lot of opportunity. People these days, because of COVID, because of safety and security, are looking more for a branded hotel that has the facilities that they need. It has the safety systems, the security systems, but also the technology. So it makes bookings easier, makes changing your booking easier. It's more flexible. And they know what to expect when they get there. So basically what happens when you're a hospitality management company, the bigger you are, the better, because you have more negotiation, you have more leverage in dealing with your travel partners, with the OTAs. You can do more stuff, you can have more programs, you can have a better membership program, you can have more benefits for people traveling around. So I think, you'll see a lot of consolidation in future, like for example, Ascot come in, they buy up Oakwood, they buy up Tausia. You see other companies will be coming in, buying up the local operators in Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. You'll see the international operators coming in more, but just in general, like, you'll see more consolidation, more branded hotels coming in. So I think that'll be the kind of future. And you'll see also a lot more what we talked about before, TPO, third-party operator contracts. That hasn't really come to Asia so much as it is in like North America and Europe. But you'll see a lot more international brands coming in, but only with the brands. And then you'll have a third-party operator, a local company here, for example, actually doing the day-to-day operations of the company. So I think in the next couple of years, you'll see that'll be a big change. Yeah.
Okay. As you said, there is so many challenges we will face in next year. Then what more could Indonesia be doing to attract more foreign tourists?
I think probably the number one thing they could do, they're already doing, which is building out the infrastructure with better airports, around, either it's in Medan or Jogja or Makassar, and then building out the road infrastructure in East Java, for example, or building things like the Wush, which is a big success between Jakarta and Bandung, makes travel much easier. So that's a big thing. Probably the biggest difference that will make Indonesia could make is with visas. Any country can make it. I mean, with biometric passports now, it's getting a lot easier to track people and find out, is this you? Are you this person in this passport? I mean, it should be a lot easier these days. So what that will allow to do is reduce down the need for, getting visas in advance or visas on arrival. People will just come and they say, okay, it's easy. They scan your passport. You're connected to the global system. That'll make it easier. So it's been shown that, and you can see it in Thailand, for example, they were very quick after COVID. They dropped their visas for the Chinese market. So they basically vacuumed or hoovered up all the Chinese market. Any of the Chinese market that was traveling outside China in the last year basically was going to Thailand because they dropped their visa very quickly. But I think most countries will come up with this very, very quickly. Yeah. Then also I think maybe you could do Indonesia could do more events and stuff like that. I mean, Singapore was very quick to grab. The Taylor Swift contract was a little bit controversial. I think a lot of people in the government were like, oh man, you can't do that. That's really bad. But at the same time, they're like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So it's pretty smart. So I think you'll see more stuff like this going on. And people are into that. People after COVID, people want to see more events, have more experiences, see bigger bands, bigger kind of events coming on, So I think you'll see a lot more of that in Indonesia as well. So, and then also, just the technology part in Indonesia is good. I mean, maybe some more advertising through TikTok, through whatever, some more marketing spend. Indonesia spends some on advertising, on marketing and stuff overseas, but not as much compared to, for example, Malaysia and Thailand, which would be doing much more. They'd have much bigger budgets, So probably those areas would be the main ones, yeah. And then if they did those, but I think the visa would be the number one on the list at the moment, to try and figure out how to just make it easier for people to travel and travel for longer periods. Because Indonesia is quite far away for a lot of people, and there's a lot of stuff to do here. It's not like you're coming in for 10 days and then popping out. People, when they come here, they stay for months.
Okay.
So, you'd be surprised. I mean, people come, Indonesia is like you can go all the way from Flores to Aceh and everything in between, north, south. I mean, there's so many different stuff. Shopping in Jakarta, beaches in Bali, it's got everything here, yeah.
Okay. So you think that Indonesia have to more entertain or event for people because they need more experience since COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So people in general are leaning more towards spending money on samples and experience rather than on their house or their apartment. Or it's still important for people, but it's not as important as it was before. Now people are realizing, spending time with family, traveling, spending time with friends, going places, experiencing different stuff is also where the life experiences. So I think people are spending a larger portion of their salaries, their disposable income on that kind of travel.
Okay, John, I've watched some of your interviews and found that your childhood aspiration is one to running a hotel business, right? And as we can see now, you are a CEO of a big company in hotel management. Can you tell us more about that, like your story, how you make that dream come true?
Sure.
So we get inspired by your story.
I don't know how inspiration it is, but Yeah, I started off. I think I was very young when I decided I wanted to be in the hotel business. I always, whenever we went to hotels or went to restaurants, I always thought there were hotels, restaurants, F&B, entertaining, that kind of business. So whenever I had like a choice of subjects to pick in school, or if I had spare time, I picked, for example, French or Spanish or different things that would help me in the hotel business, accounting. And then on my spare time, I'd used to go and work for free in restaurants or hotels. I used to just go into them and ask them, I'm looking for some work experience. Can I come in? When I was 14, 15 years old. And then they thought it was a bit weird, but they were like, okay, sure. So I'd end up working in the housekeeping department or front office or in the kitchen peeling onions or washing dishes, whatever it took just to be there, learn the stuff. And then after time, maybe I got a part-time job there, or they taught me a little bit of stuff. So over time, I built up this kind of knowledge bank of stuff, and I got a lot of experience working in a lot of different places. But I never had a problem with working for free to get experience and learning the different stuff. That's one of the things I did a lot. I mean, when I worked in, I went to London when I was maybe 21, worked there for 2 years. I think I worked in maybe 100 different places, and often for free, like Buckingham Palace, Stringfellows nightclub, RAF bases, catering operations, small cafes, just to get experience, different stuff. And I did that the same thing when I went to France. Then when I started getting some money, I was able to go and I'd use all my spare money to go to restaurants and eat in them, or go to hotels and stay in them and find out what they're like. I even do it today when we go on holidays. My family's on holidays, but wherever we're staying, I'm always taking notes on our pictures, what kind of hotel it is, what's in the room, anything interesting, stuff like that. So later on then, after I worked a few years in hotels, I realized that if I wanted to do what I do now, I needed more of more education to be able to do the big picture stuff. So then I went and did an MBA in England, and to educate myself. So, setting up companies, building brands, dealing with brand registrations, licensing, franchise agreements, all this kind of stuff, because I knew I didn't have the tools for it. So once we got that, then I was able to bring that into Archipelago, and we started that and then build up from there. Yeah. And then based on all my experience, I was able to also, with the team, put together all the different SOPs and standards and brand requirements that you need. So we were able to work on that and build it out over the years. So that system took about maybe 10 years to build. So, but all the brands now are set up. So, we do some new brands, but mostly, we do on stuff that we developed between 20 and 10 years ago, which was when a lot of the work was done. So now it's using all this material we put together, all this infrastructure we built, so which is a very solid base now to be able to go out to the world and go out to customers and owners and developers with all our systems and standards and procedures and know-how to be able to build up the company. So it was a lot of work. I mean, I was more busy, I think, 20 years ago when we only had 2 or 3 hotels than I am now, because at that time I was working, visiting the hotels, doing the thing, plus developing all the different systems along with the team. The team we have a lot of the people we have with us have been with us now 10, 15, 20 years from the beginning, and they've been instrumental in building up, helping develop the brands, helping develop the systems. So a lot of the credit goes to the people in the team who are still with us today and still would make up Archipelago. I mean, we're like not such a company of like a building and stuff. We're a company of people who work really well together and do great things, I think.
Okay, that's a great story. That's so interesting. Jadi Tribuners, Terjal ini rela gak dibayar waktu pas masih muda gitu, belajar ke kafe-kafe, ke restoran, ke hotel, cuma buat ngerasain pengalamannya langsung, belajar langsung gimana sih ngejalanin bisnis hotel tuh, kayak bagian-bagian yang paling kecil aja dia pelajarin biar nanti pas ngurus atau manage hotel dia udah paham gitu. That's a great story.
Yeah, thank you. I never really thought, I mean, when I was younger, like even a few years ago, I never used to do interviews. I mean, I don't know if you know that, but I never wouldn't do conferences, I wouldn't do interviews, because I didn't think we had an interesting story. I think the story was still in development. But now I think I think we still have a long way to go. But I think now we have like an interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
I don't like, it's not that, for me, it's not that interesting if people sit there and go, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'd rather sit there and say, okay, we did this, and this is what we did, and this is how we did it, and this is our story. So for me, that's a bit more interesting. So that's why I don't mind doing interviews like this now. But even like 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't be doing that many interviews because I didn't think our story was that interesting. But I think now we have a bit more of a story to tell. So it's like, okay, this is our story.
Okay, but it's inspiring me a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for coming to our studio. I hope we can meet again in other opportunities. Thank you so much.
Happy to come back. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oke, Tribuners, tadi banyak sekali yang kita bicarakan bersama dengan CEO dari Archipelago, John Flood. Semoga bisa memberikan inspirasi dan juga pengetahuan buat Tribuners. Dan Tribuners, sekian bincang-bincang kita hari ini. Sampai jumpa di program lainnya. Bye.
Download Tribun X sekarang. Menghadirkan lokal menjadi Indonesia.